Okay guys, today I want to talk about why modern dating doesn't work. And I want to talk about what you can do about it. So the dating market is hard right now because as a guy, you don't know how to message or text her to actually get her out on a date. Online dating is really tough. You don't get any matches, and when you do get matches, you don't know how to move it to the next step, to the date, to getting a girlfriend. And a lot of guys are struggling because they don't know how else to make real connections. You go out to a few networking events, you try out speed dating, but it just seems like every time you try, women don't like you back right away, or those connections seem very hard to make. For my female clients, the biggest problem they have is that most guys, they consider low value, and it's a barrage of them, right? Through DMs, through online dating, every day at the workplace. And so she's just overwhelmed with a lot of sausages. The guys that she's actually attracted to, right? The high value guys, a lot of them are players. A lot of them don't want to commit. They just want sex. And this is a huge problem for a lot of women. Online dating wise, you can see here, it's just a barrage of bore, right? Just the same messages. Hi, how are you? You're beautiful. Want to go on a date sometime? There's no empathy to her attraction cycle and her experience of the dating process. So that's why we have this blame game right now in the dating culture, which I believe is treating the symptom but not the cause of what's really going on. So as men, we think women are superficial. You only want to date tall guys. Women only care about money. Women are too masculine. They lack traditional values in the West. And even a very extreme case, women hate men. For women, she's thinking, all these guys are trying to get with me, but they're all losers. Or the guys that I like just use me for sex. You know, why can't I get the guy that I want, right? And then it's like, it's so boring. I'm getting the same messages. And the guys that approach me, I don't like, but the guys that want to approach me never approach me. So all these feelings are legitimate, right? Like I acknowledge them. I've been there too as a guy. But if you zoom out from the forest, right, you can see the forest from the trees, and then maybe you can see a path forward, okay? And I want to help you do that today. In the past, people met through friends and family, and now you meet through a bar or a restaurant, or you meet online. That means if you don't know how to do online dating, if you don't know how to talk to women at a bar, a club, or a social setting, your prospects of meeting someone is extremely low, and it's declining. We know smartphone penetration is, through the roof, and we also know that Tinder usage is through the roof. And now there are actually additional apps like Bumble, Coffee Meets Bagel, so the competition is even more fierce. So you see the path in the forest, but then let's look at the path on the ocean on the other side. On the other side, we know that people are more stressed out at work, 12% more, in fact, over the last 10 years. We know that stress is the number one reason that people feel threatened, unsafe at the workplace. This is interesting data that I didn't realize. People on average go to sleep around midnight and then they wake up around 6:30. Most Americans get up around 6 or 7 and they get to the office around 8. Okay, so there's not a lot of sleep during the weekday. Not a lot of time to do other things. Then you look at the data from the survey side. In the UK, 1 in 5 men do not have one single close friend. 1 in 3 men said that they didn't have one best friend. And these figures were lower for women because on average, men lead more solitary lives. 21% of men in the US said that they receive emotional support from a friend within the past week, compared to double that amount, 41% of women. According to a study in DC, half of people, 54% of men and women, say they sometimes or always feel as if no one knows them well. And I bet you that's a higher percentage for men than for women. The result of all this is that young men, right, when they graduate, they get a job. What they do on the weekdays and sometimes on the weekends is play video games and addiction to adult films. You take that habit a year, 2 years, suddenly they start going to OnlyFans. They pay for that superficial feeling of connection and intimacy because there's such a lack of it in their lives, okay? Now, some of you, we see these pictures, there's that dopamine hit, like I want to play that video game, or I want to find this girl's name and look up her OnlyFans, right? There's that instant gratification that just triggers you. And for the guys that do make a lot of money, my clients who make a lot of money but don't have a lot of social skills, in the worst case, they end up with a girl who spends a lot of money or a girl who's actually with him because he makes a lot of money. And I guarantee you, that never ends well. Because a guy always feels like he's compensating for his lack of game with his finances. And the woman secretly resents him for that, even though she's enjoying the spoils of him financially spoiling her. So this leaves single men kind of in a vice, right? On one hand, you're tired from work, you're stressed, you have no time. On the other hand, the competition's rising and you don't know what to do. These are illustrations from Vox.com of data that we found from men. So according to a survey from Gallup, the percentage of men with at least 6 close friends fell by half, 50%, in the last 20 years. 1 in 5 men say they have no close friendships. Obviously, there are other factors here, but that's steadily increasing over the last 20 years, okay? From 17.7 out of every 100,000 to over 22.4. When you see the forest from the trees, you realize that this stuff is systematic. It's just not just one person's problem. It's a system-wide problem. Let's talk about online dating for a little bit, right? Because most guys don't know how to talk to girls, in the real world. They do online dating. This graph really surprised me when I saw it. But basically, if you are a woman and you're more attractive, an average girl gets about 7 to 10x the messages that an average person gets. But a hot girl, the most attractive girl, gets 25x multiplier on the incoming messages. Most guys in the medium get about 2 to 3x, right? If you're lucky, 5x if you're slightly above average. The best looking guy has a 10x message multiplier. And the woman still has a 2.5x multiplier, exponentially more than the guy at the most attractive scale. This means that online dating is extremely unfair. In fact, when we compare it to the income and quality chart, this is a line of equity distribution. This will be the perfectly even distribution. The US income, this is data from a couple of years ago, shows unequal distribution. And guess what? Tinder is even more unfair than that. Compare with the rest of the world, okay? United States is pretty unfair in terms of income distribution. Well, guess what? Tinder is here. Pre the dating app, right? In the old days, you live in a small town, you go to school. Let's say even I go to New York City. I'm competing with some people, sure, but really I'm competing with people in my social circle, right? And Gary is a well-adjusted white guy. He graduated from an okay school. He's average in every sense, and he knows how to talk to people, and he's a nice guy. Gary is most likely my competition, okay? And maybe there's a super version of Gary where he doesn't wear his glasses, he's buff, and he makes more money than me. But he's a competitor that's at least within range, right? I might have to compete with one Gary. Okay, so be it. Well, there are other girls out there. Maybe Gary gets the best girl, but I might get the second best girl, right? Now with online dating, I am competing with the top 5% of men. That includes celebrities. That includes guys with a lot of influence, a lot of money. So the majority of dating apps, with the exception of maybe eHarmony, there's more men than women, right? Her, by the way, is a lesbian dating app, so this one doesn't count. And we know that most men, when they asked, right? And men, by the way, we don't admit a lot of things. So this 57% are saying not enough messages, but I bet you probably more men would like to admit they don't get enough messages, but they probably say, oh, I get just the right amount because, men, we are prideful and we don't want to share our insecurities. Women, on the other hand, not enough messages is a rare problem. It's just that sometimes there's too many, or she has a filtering problem. So her inbox versus your inbox is completely different if you don't know what you're doing. If you don't have a game plan as a guy, it's very hard to win this game based on the current rules of the system. This was an experiment done by Online for Love. The link is here, okay, onlineforlove.com. This guy created a John profile and a Jane profile, right? Like semi-attractive guy, semi-attractive girl. He measured the results over a period. This is the result after 7 days on the app, okay? The guy has 19 likes, okay? And the girl has 7,506 likes. Wow. That is unbelievable. The truth is most men don't get picked, right? This is OkCupid data on how women rate most men. So women basically swipe left on most men, not attractive, and they swipe right on the small percentage of men that they find attractive. Lo and behold, guess what? For the first time in last 30 years, right? Number of young men with no sex, okay, in the past year has risen and it's continued to rise. Now we know this is OkCupid as well. Men rate women on the equal distribution, right? Attractive, semi-attractive, non-attractive, and it's kind of like a bell curve. We know this is data published from OkCupid from a couple of years ago, a long time ago, but when it was published, it was very controversial, let's say. As an Asian guy, right? I have a 34% reply, the highest reply from a black girl, and I have the second highest reply from Native American and other. In fact, I have a really low reply rate even from Asian girls. However, Asian females and white females get pretty good replies, as do most females, actually all green, with the exception of black females. So for most men, with the exception of maybe white guys who are doing better off, right, our reply rate is half the reply rate of women when we send the first message. This is from Psych Dating. He was highlighting a data report. Basically, the results from this study showed that 30% of cases in women, they swipe right. Around 20% of respondents rejected more than 80% of the profiles. So we're starting to see Pareto's principle at play here. We also saw that while only one profile out of 10 was liked, 38 profiles were disliked by the same 80% of people. So again, 80-20 rule. We know that for most men, right, they like and match, it's 1%. Well, guess what? Like but no match for most men, 52%. And for most women, it's that they're just not passing on a lot of them, right? And the ones they do match with usually match them back if they're average to very above average attractiveness. This is a crazy data chart. So here's the link if you want to check it out, okay? But basically what it says is, I believe these are aggregates. So top 5%, let's assume these are aggregates. That means that the top 5% of men get 57% of all matches, if not 41%. The top 10% of men, if you add all these up, get 95% of all matches. Let's assume that this is not the case and it's just 58%. That means that the top 10 get over half of all the matches, okay? The women, on the other hand, in the bottom 50% still have twice the amount of that men do. That means that if you're in the bottom 50%, you get table scraps. Like, you're not even in the game. I haven't even talked about DMs yet. So for women, this is what happens. And most guys can't even wrap their head around this. It's like, imagine you go see the Avengers film. And you're like, man, Scarlett Johansson is so beautiful as the Black Widow. I've seen her in this other movie. Imagine Scarlett Johansson jumping into your DMs, right? You'd be like, are you even real? Like, is this possible? And you see that blue check mark and you're like, oh my God, Scarlett Johansson is in my DM asking me out or telling me that I'm pretty. What the hell? Now, most guys can't even comprehend that possibility, right? It's so foreign to them. But this is literally what hot girls go through, okay? They have literally celebrities in their DMs hitting them up. So at this point, most guys are like, man, like, I'm not gonna play this game. I'm just gonna be single, right? Or like, you know what, I'm just gonna give up. It's not even worth playing. And you know, studies have found a gender-specific link between suicide and loneliness, right? So that's another factor. We talked about how 1 in 5 men say they have no close friendships, right? So this is a huge problem. Now, wait, is there a solution? Possibly. Maybe I just stop watching the video here. You could. But what if there is another way? What if there's a way around this systematic rigged game? First, let's take a step back. It's not her fault. Being mad at women for having more messages online is like being mad at the sky for being blue, right? It's systematic. It's not her fault that the system is in her favor. Nelson Mandela was in prison for over 20 years. And when he got out of prison, when he was freed, he had an opportunity to punish the people that put him in prison. But he said, when the system itself is corrupt, people are incentivized to behave according to the corrupt system. Therefore, we shouldn't punish the people. We should try to change the system, right? So he was a guy who was about peace, and he forgave the people that put him in jail. My suggestion to you, if you choose to take it, is don't waste time on things you can't change. Focus on the principles that matter. Go out there and take action and get what's yours. You know, pursue a happy life. As long as you're not hurting anybody, do everything you can to help yourself, find love, keep love, and help the people around you. Another thing guys forget is that beauty has its disadvantages. This is a survey that Cobiz Media did. They asked women what turned them off, and then they asked women, how do men get a girlfriend and keep her? And a lot of women get turned off. You can see a lot of these are the things that men say and their behavior patterns and hobbies, okay? And to turn women on is have a good sense of humor, be quick-witted while caring, right? So showing that empathy but dominance, the ability to banter, and the ability to communicate in a way that attracts her. And surprisingly, a stable job with a decent paycheck, it was only 23%. The most important thing was just being able to communicate properly. They asked men what turned them off about a woman. Men said, we don't like women who are, you know, big show off, cocky. We don't like them without self-discipline to be fit or be stylish, okay? Or we don't like them to have too much surgery where it looks unnatural, right? The key to attract and keep a cute guy, men said, be bright and shiny while maintaining a charming and innocent image, okay? So for women, right, their attraction triggers, a lot of it comes down to how well kept and how attractive they look. And to some degree, that's a detriment because what happens is beauty is temporary, but ugly is forever. Okay, it's easy to change your behavior over time as you age, and it's harder to maintain a certain look. We know this because for women, on average, their sexual marketplace value peaks between 20 to 30. For most men, our sexual marketplace value peaks around 30 to 40. Now, age is a multiplier. What that means is as you get older, if you're a guy who's taken actions to develop yourself, to work on your communication, to work on your style, it ages like fine wine and it gets better and better. But if you're a guy who doesn't do that, it gets harder and harder as you go on. So this graph no longer applies. Now it's harder, your value actually goes down if you don't work on yourself. So let's talk about online dating for a bit, right? Can I actually win this game? This is data from Hinge. So men are more likely to respond to assertive message. Yes, that's true because men just want to meet up and see if they can hook up, right? Women respond more to messages about food. What they're really saying is just don't open with, hey, hello, how are you, how's your day? At least something specific. Most guys have no game, okay? Hello, hey baby, you were cute. Hey, how are you? How you doing? It's just a barrage of bore, like I said, like a wall of boring dudes. And sometimes if he's like, hi there, and he's kind of cute, she'll click on it, right? But it's like, it's so repetitive. Look at this text here. It's like, there's no finesse, no artistry, no game to this whatsoever. Lucy is a model. She's a good friend of mine. I asked her to install Tinder for me because I was doing an experiment. So she's at my house swiping and look at her face. She's so bored. She's just like, what is this? She doesn't use Tinder, right? She meets guys all the time, but she's just like, man, this is terrible, okay? I can tell you that even for models, their messages are the same. It's like worse than this, right? It's terrible. So the online dating, it really becomes a process and a funnel, no matter where you are, to control your image, right? Your profile image, to your first message, to really getting her out. And this is a very scientific funnel because you're looking at massive numbers, right? And until you hit that tipping point where the funnel converts, it always feels like online dating doesn't work for you. The first step to that, of course, is proper pictures, right? This is a client of mine. You can see here, in the beginning, he didn't know how to take pictures. He had kind of like awkward poses and he didn't understand his style, right? He didn't understand how clothes fit in his body, how to pose properly, how to pick the right outfits. But afterwards, he actually learned how to take photos, how to post edit, how to find a photographer. And these pictures obviously performed way better. Before, he wasn't even getting any matches or dates. But here, he's actually getting matches and now he's working on, his communication and his messaging. That takes us to the next step, right? Proper messaging. How do you send messages that are unique, fun, get her attention, pattern interrupts all of the matches that she's getting, and she's like, huh, this guy seems interesting. This is a message from a client, being more playful already, and he's starting to get results. So if you want more on how to message girls, right, there's a free resource you can download with 7 high status messages. Just go to highintegrityskills/7, okay, if you're curious about that. Now, we know that on one hand, the game is rigged. On the other hand, you're tired, there's no time. Is there a third option other than online dating and, socializing? Well, you can focus on your social interactions. So we know that men and women respond to different attraction circuitry. So what I did was, over the years, I developed what we call the setup, right? Which is this system of converting potential friends, partners into a social system that allows me to have freedom in my dating life. Now, I did make a video explaining this whole system in my course, but for now, I'll give you the short version. Basically, if you're able to talk to people that you find attractive or that you're curious about, you can bring them into your social circle. And if you can know how to message girls, even the ones that are kind of on the fence, and befriend them or get them out on a date with you, you can add them to your social circle, right? The ones that don't become girlfriends from online dating. From your social circle, you can start with public events that are happening anyway. And then as your circle grows, you can throw private events, right? Where hey, come to my house for dinner, or hey, I'm gonna do a board game night at our house. And you start having a lot of private events that are only you, and you start being known as a guy who always has something going on. And you can leverage your geography using technology to help you instead of hinder you with the efficiencies. And then you develop these flexible friends with benefits relationships that are very beneficial if you want to be a bachelor. Or what happens is, you have a lot of friends and these people will introduce you to your future wife, okay? That's what happened with Tucker Max. He was meeting girls that he would like to meet, and he met his wife through one of the girls that he met from these activities that he was doing. Now, a lot of guys aren't getting success. And the thing you need to understand is that the woman's attraction cycle is different than the guy's attraction cycle. And so this attraction cycle applies to cold approach, to online dating, to social circle. And you have to know how to calibrate the cycle to each one of these formulas so that this cycle actually continues to grow and exponentially expands, okay? The dating process, there's also a funnel. It's not as scientific or precise as the online funnel, but it's a funnel. And once it's built, the pillars are there, right? It's systematic and it's repeatable. And what we find with our clients, over time, their identity starts to shift from I'm a guy with no girls to a guy who actually gets girls. And then you're like, oh my God, it's done. It's like, it's handled, right? We work on their attraction. We work on their ability to connect authentically. Then from there, they have the selection, the ability to select the right partner for them or the right dating prospects. And what happens is they have a core shift in the belief systems. And because this core shift affects everything from their nonverbals to their eye contact to the way they communicate, it takes is one girl to completely change your life, okay? And I know that sometimes you just want to give up, it's too hard, but we forget that all it takes is one. This is not a game where you're running a business and you need $1 million to keep the bank afloat. This is not like statistics where if one number goes off, everything crashes. You just need one person to think that you're cool enough to get to know. 95% of my clients just want a girl that they don't have to settle for. This is one of my clients with a girl he found after our coaching. These are some of my other clients from Seduce with Style, where I help them with their appearance and image. There's two problems that a lot of guys face. The first one is the glass empty thirst problem, right? So let's say you're thirsty and you're in need of water. You want to meet the right girl, but you lack social skills to do so, like I once did. And the glass is half empty. And you need the glass to be at a certain point, tipping point, where results happen, right? You need to actually make the lemon juice, the concoction. And then, well, I don't know if this is lemon juice, but it looks like more pomegranate. But you need it to the point to fill the glass up to a point where tipping point happens and results start to happen, right? And a lot of guys don't have enough energy or time or guidance to get to the tipping point where they actually start seeing results. And so it feels like there's this wall and this grind and they can't get through. And what happens is they give up, they start doubting themselves, they associate their self-worth with their inability to attract the girl that they want. And this becomes a self-fulfilling cycle of a negative spiral, okay? The other problem is, besides the focus and attention and guidance, is the maze problem, which is some guys are like, I'm super motivated. Some of my clients, when they come to me, they're like, Giovanni, I've been trying for like 2 years and I'm really, I'm studious, I'm motivated. But the problem is they're in a maze, right? They don't know how to get out. No matter how much effort you put in, they're always on this hamster wheel. And so either they feel trapped, right? They feel like this learned helplessness, or they get really angry and, they start punishing the people around them or themselves emotionally, sometimes physically. A smart man learns from his mistakes, but it takes a long time to learn from your own mistakes. Learn from the mistakes of others, okay? Cut your learning curve by 10x. There's a lot of different courses, but one of them is Seduce with Style. And this is a client of mine he was very successful, was an engineer, but couldn't get girls, didn't know how to do it. And he changed up his style. And you can download, 10 tips to help you do that right now when you go to highintegrityskills/style4, okay? The resource is completely free. It's a free PDF that shows you how to do it. And you can check out the course if you want, okay? That's optional. If you're an Asian guy, there's datingwithoutborders.net. So there's certain issues that Asian guys face, like unconscious social bias. And I teach you how to get past that and actually develop real connections and date the girls that are from different backgrounds, so you can choose the right person for yourself. You have to remember that in this game, the majority of guys get by with what they can get. The majority of men don't have a path forward, or they just take what they have. And when you're a white guy with a regular job, that might be possible. In fact, that happens a lot. They settle for the first girl and they kind of raise a family that way. But for most guys, they settle and there's resentment, or the relationship doesn't go well, they have kids, they get divorced, or they never feel quite 100% fulfilled. The guys that do figure it out either got lucky or they put in a ton of work. But if you can shortcut this, if you can actually follow a process that works, you can cut down your time from like 10 years, like it took me, to maybe 1 year, maybe even 6 months if you're actually focused and actually get it right. There is no magic pill here. There's not one button you can flip and just, unless you're getting a sugar baby, right, where you get the result. But there is a process for developing your skills. And once you get the girl, these skills stay with you. your ability to communicate properly, to attract people, to influence people, that affects other areas of your life. And now you have a cute girl who will travel this path with you. Make sense? So check out datingwithoutborders.net if you're an Asian guy. Check out Seduce with Style right here. That's high integrity skills / style 4 if you're working on your appearance and your look, and get a head start, right? I wanted to make this video because so many guys are like, I'm not getting results on online dating. I don't know how to talk to girls. And I'm like, yeah, I feel you. It's a systematic problem of the haves and the have-nots, but it doesn't have to be that way.